Hey folks, how you doing? Bruce McDonald here, the Telemanker Review. Just let me get my streaming screen up here. Where is it? Holy spumoli. Oh, I don't know. Anyways, I just thought I'd pop on, do a podcast, nothing special, and had this inclination to talk about things more beautiful tonight because I'm just always on the books. And, they're useful and they're necessary at this time and everything, but it just kind of occurred to me that I never talk about the good stuff enough, and that is, the bulk of my life. The bad stuff is when I'm asked to write one of these books, and it's not really bad for me. I mean, Bullet Tinengong bala aquí, mi amor. Sorry, I gotta get that. You can't fool around with bullet ants. Nailed them. You get the old chancletta and you nail it. That's what you do with a bullet ant. They got these exoskeletons though. You got to double whack them sometimes, but I've gotten really pretty good with the flick on the chancletta. Welcome to life in the rainforest. And I never talk about the good stuff and all of the stuff that really keeps us all together and keeps us whole, right? I mean, books are for drama, and drama has the negative and positive pole, right? And people engage drama. A book's a safe place to engage drama. It's much more frightening in real life, right? So, anyways, life up here is just so beautiful. I can't even describe to you how beautiful my life is up here. It's a constant source of peace and inspiration. It can get busy sometimes when family's visiting and stuff, and like now, for example. Let's see if I can bump this. Bump this up a little bit. Yeah, give me some gain. There we go. There's my gain. Yeah. There we go. I see some red now. Okay. And boy, when you start putting videos up on Rumble, like all the comments are people selling this marketing service to get your content out there, but I just let it grow naturally, word of mouth, like, Santo passing on the videos to other people and stuff like that. I don't really care about, anything else really. It doesn't really matter to me, so I'm not really that interested. And I just have this, first of all, I'm not doing what I'm doing commercially. I mean, other than selling books, right? Which is no kind of commercial venture at all, right? It's like a lemonade stand. So I'm doing this for different reasons, and I'm doing it for anybody who's out there who may get connected to the light of God through my voice and through what I'm saying, just like a Christian preaches. And there's nothing wrong with the Christian preachers or the power of Christ as it's delivered by a real instrument of the Christ, okay? Because that's a powerful force out there, and it's not to be belittled. And when I go on and on about the Vatican and stuff like that, please don't confuse what I'm saying with belittling the Christ. And while I'm on this topic, I do not for 1 minute believe this Amon Hillman jerk-off who's all over the place now saying Christ was a pedophile and got caught in the Garden of Gethsemane with a 14-year-old boy. I don't believe that, and I dug into it a little bit. He was proven wrong like a decade ago. Other classicists and linguists come out and said, no, your interpretation, and they proved it. And he just decided that he wanted his moment in the sun, and he was going to get that by continuing to say that, what was Christ doing with a young boy in the Garden of Gethsemane? And, he goes on to say that all of the apostles were very young boys and stuff. But I don't know about that. I mean, they're described as fishermen and trade. They have a trade by the time he meets them. So, and who knows what the lifespan was back then, so who knows? Anyways, I don't believe that dude for a sec. And Christ is my spiritual friend. I don't take saviors. It's my mission to save myself. That's the way I feel about it. And I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel about it. And I want to save myself. So I don't know what to say to people who say that Christ is the only way. I don't believe that. I think he's a powerful force. I accept his love. I accept his protection if I'm in a jam and stuff, but I want to get there on my own. I want to consciously make my journey back to God. Okay? Because that's the learning path. And I want to go on the path. I want to be on the path. And so I like my system. I like the path and the footstones that God's laid out for me. I think I'm getting a coffee here. Cappuccino or cafe?
Café, mi amor.
Oh, okay, gracias. Qué bueno. Gracias, mommy. This is my beautiful life up here. I have come to really like and respect earth-based people. I don't call them peasants or campesinos, although that's what they are called over here, campesinos, which is peasant in Spanish. But I find the simple people in the world the absolute best people to live with. You show me somebody with a university degree and who's been surviving in a city for some time, and they have no spiritual grounding or spiritual expression, and I'll show you a snake. You know, there's just something, and I find the simple people just very direct and just very honest, and I just love living with them, man. So this is my simple life up here, and I absolutely love it. And I think the thing that's transformed me the most is the nature I live in. I mean, I don't get out and walk around as much as I should. It's not a daily thing for me. Most days I'm at my desk. I got a lot of work right now. I got to make money. I have a lot of people that depend on me, and I love that feeling. You know, I love it. It's so nice to be needed, right? And to put yourself into a life where you get this, I don't know how to describe it. It's like you just say, okay, I'm going to do this, and that's all there is to it, and you do it. And you just get this spiritual grounding as a result of doing it. It's just absolutely beautiful, man. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more. Nature is a transformative force, and I have come to believe wholeheartedly that human beings belong in a natural environment. We're supposed to be hearing birds and the wind through trees and rivers and streams and insects at night. I mean, you can still hear these things in the suburbs and stuff, but we're supposed to be hearing these things. Our soundscape is the beginning of our consciousness. Let me repeat that, because that's a very subtle but important point that I just made. Our soundscape is the foundation of our consciousness. So the things we hear, and it doesn't mean you necessarily tune into it, but it's in the background, right? And it's always there, and whether your conscious mind is picking up on it or tuning into it or not, doesn't matter, your unconscious mind is. And these natural sounds are very harmonizing for human beings, because we're a natural creature in this world. We're made of the same elements as everything else in this world: air, earth, fire, water, and ether. And so the closer we are to these elemental forces, the more well-being we have in our lives. It's just the way it is. There's no other way to say it, no other way to explain it. It's just the way that it is. It's my little stepson there. Step-grandson, actually. Family and kids around me all the time. It really sort of gives me the strength and grounding to deal with these super dark topics like the devil and us and the light of darkness. It's the counterbalance. If anybody out there is wondering how I do it, that's it. You just counterbalance yourself. And tonight I want to talk about, my understanding of God. and where God is going to fit into life in the coming epoch. Because I don't think I know, but I can't prove it to you, so I have to say I think there's all these rules in the way we speak. If I can't prove something to you, I have to say I think. I mean, really, I know, but I know for myself. I've proven it to myself, but I can't prove it to you. You're either going to have it proven to you or you're not going to have it proven to you. So it's up to you, I guess. But I think that God is coming back into the world in a big, big way. And that we go through these phases and these personal, I guess you could call them personal empowerment phases or what have you, and all of these sorts of things. And we're definitely in one now. I mean, the feeling of society now is almost, it's almost got a prison feel to it now. I'm just going to check my live stream here because I bumped up my bit rate. Oh, it's doing fine. Hi, guys. I see you there. Take calls tonight. By the way, I think I got this whole thing with Skype figured out. I had to you engage NDI on Skype, and NDI is this thing. I don't know how to explain it. Hi Jasper. Hi C Jasper. Hi Warrior. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for coming out, man. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is like, what is God? Okay. Now the one thing I can tell you is you're never going to see God. You're never going to lay eyes on God. Anybody who ever tells you they've seen or met God, it could be an expression of the divine. It could be a high being on another dimension that embodies the divine at that level. No doubt, those things are all possible. I've had those experiences myself. But you can't really meet God. You can't. It's just not possible. Okay? You can meet gods. And there are a lot of gods out there. Okay? A lot. And as I did a whole podcast on this called God and Gods. And the gods, for the most part, are transactional. Okay? That means that it's a give and take. The creator, I call him the creator. I call it the creator. I shouldn't even appropriate a gender. I call it the creator. And the creator is a pure love expression. And the creator comes into the world as a form of energy that we can experience in silence inside ourselves. It's a current of energy inside of us. And that's not even the divine. It's like, I would call that the thought of God. So the thought of God is a sound, a continuous, never-ending sound. That is the thought of God. And from those thoughts of God, various beings in their individuated forms, in their various dimensions, begin to map out the dimension based off or pivoting off of the energy of the creator that allows that dimension to sustain itself. It's sounding a bit esoteric, perhaps, maybe a bit Buddhist, I don't know, but this is what I've come to understand after 40 years. And I have circumnavigated the globe in literature and teachings to come to this understanding. You can't fool God. You can't. You can fool yourself, you can fool other people, you can fool your wife, you can fool your husband, you can fool your kids, you can fool your business partner, you can fool anybody, but you can't fool God. And the reason you can't fool God is because you are simultaneously God yourself. And if you think you're going to fool God, then you're cutting yourself off from God. And if you're on a power journey, that may seem like the thing to do in the moment. But what the real God will do at that point is take you on a half-moon journey, a crescent journey, or a full circle journey, to bring you right back to the point where you made the decision to empower yourself and bring you to your knees. And then show you that your own power can't compete with what's out there and you have to surrender. And this is the problem that all these these sorts of people get into who want power, right? It's the people that get into the occult and stuff, and even all the psychic stuff as well. You know, there's quite a number of people that I find myself very disappointed with these days. That I call them friends or what have you, but people just love this psychic shit. And they kid themselves that they're not involved in the dark arts. Okay? From the perspective of the divine, and I don't know who needs to hear this. And when I speak spontaneously like this, I don't know who needs to hear it. But I just say it, okay? And it may not even be anybody who's listening. It may be somebody else who needs to hear it, who's going to hear it a little bit later. But from the perspective of the divine, the creator, there's no difference between white magic or black magic. The point is, don't use magic. Okay? And I have so many people I know who are, let's say, reformed black magicians. I know a lot of people like this, okay? Like dark characters who kind of reform themselves. But then what happens is they get into all this white magic. I'm a healer, I'm a shaman, I'm this. And they don't realize it's the same thing. Okay? And they certainly don't realize what Matthew means in the gospel when he says, except you be as little children. Okay? You have to give up all idea that you can defend yourself. And you have to put the entirety of your trust into the divine. And if you can do that, then you might slay dragons. And you don't need a sword to slay dragons. Okay? You don't need a sword to slay dragons. I'm going to tell you guys a story tonight. I tell a lot of stories, and I think stories are excellent teaching tools because people remember stories. And it gets an idea or a point into somebody without preaching or lecturing, and the story does it for you. I met a lot of super freaky people working on the devil in us. Like Corinne Hustabot is just the tip of the iceberg. She then introduced me to a bunch of people who were raised in these cults. And some of them I still talk to. They're very sad stories. Extremely, like everything you've seen on the internet, people talking about being raised in these subsets of these, you can call them Illuminati bloodlines, Nephilim bloodlines, satanic bloodlines, extraterrestrial commiserating bloodlines, interdimensional commiserating bloodlines. They're power-based, they're into the occult, and they're all completely prostituted before the divine. Okay? They will have semi-comfortable lives, you know. They won't lack for anything materially. Okay? I will give them that. That life will give you the millions of dollars, the yacht, the sailboat, the villa. You'll get all those things in the cult if you diligently work for them. But what you give up is far more precious. What you lose is far more precious. Okay? So, maybe I won't tell the story. Maybe I'll talk about the principle behind the story. So what I'm getting at here is the concept of divine protection. What is divine protection? Okay, so if you're going to be protected by a God that can never be seen, okay, and the reason God will never be seen is God can't be objectified. Because if God could be objectified, that would mean that we are completely separate from God. And we're not. So God cannot be objectified. Okay, look at the process of human love. It begins with a great attraction when you're young, and there's a slight objectification of the other person for sexual gratification. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's built right into nature. You know, think back to your early 20s, you know. The girlfriend or the boyfriend that really did it for you. Now, if you stay with that person long enough, that love will transmute itself into something that you can't really put your finger on. But it's not the physical attributes anymore. It's something else. And so the love transforms itself. It's like you're baited in on the physical, but then it becomes spiritual. Your two stories begin to intertwine. And you can no longer see that person you love as an object. You see them as part of yourself. You see them as part of your subject, the subject of your life, not the object. And it's the same thing with God. Okay? So what is divine protection? Well, it's not a force field being put up around you. It will never ever be an open display of power that allows you to defeat what seems to be a much stronger foe, like the David and Goliath story. It'll never be anything like that. Divine protection is just the divine working through your consciousness, and it can do it even if you're unconscious of it, by the way. You don't have to be conscious of it. Most of my relationship with the divine is unconscious. But I've been meditating for so long now that I have saturated my unconscious with the divine. So my unconscious mind is full of God as well. And this happens after years of meditation, because there's many sections to the brain and the mind. There's the left side and the right side, the spatial, mathematical, the linguistic, and the other side is linguistic. That is the processing aspect of the physical brain. At a conceptual level, you have the conscious mind and you have the unconscious mind. You can go into your unconscious. I do it most days. So there's various ways that I pray or I meditate. Sometimes I chant. I will sit down and I will chant for an hour, and this is just to raise my vibration and to praise God. And you can chant anything you want. You could sit, close your eyes, sit in a chair, but just make sure your back is straight. That's it. And you could just sit in a chair and sing hymns, sing Christian hymns for an hour, and just keep your eyes closed and keep your concentration on your forehead. Okay, because it all happens in your forehead. The light comes in your forehead. Okay? And it's real light. And it doesn't favor any one religion. I mean, if there's one thing anybody who watches me could come to conclude, it's that there's absolutely no favoritism in this God game. God has been evenly sprinkled across the globe. Every culture has been given a portion of God, an expression of God, a path to God. And I don't think there's anything in the world that pains me more than when the priestcraft of these various expressions of God fight each other. I just find it to be the most disgusting thing in the world. And the literal and diametric of the divine at work. Hi, Karen. Hey, Rusty. Why does that name sound so familiar? Rusty Shackelford. I don't know. It just does. So when you're getting divine protection, what the divine will do is just, it will kind of mask you. Okay, so you'll just be sort of able to disappear. And it doesn't mean you really disappear, but like, I really want to give my example, but I'm not sure it's a good idea, because I don't want to be seen to be showing off or anything, and then I might have to re-engage these forces that were a little upset with the devil in us. So maybe I should leave that alone. But let me put it to you this way. God is so all-powerful that at the moment your enemy is thinking of striking you, God can make your enemy think you're one of them. And that will give you a cover, a camouflage. You're one of them, so that, oh, we don't have to do anything about this. This guy's actually one of us. And you get left alone. You don't get the black magic attacks. You don't get the dream attacks and all that sort of stuff. So that's one way that God can protect you. I would definitely say that thanks, Karen is saying, Bruce, I've always felt that way too, that the good stuff is all the same, the great teachings all have the same kernels. Absolutely. It's about the sincerity of your heart. Okay? Now, there's certain mystical experiences that are fairly uniform as well. You find them, St. Francis of Assisi and had many similar consciousness experiences to like Milarepa and many of the yogis, okay? Many of the Sufi masters of the 19th century as well. And various religions will flare up at various times, and it's just a cultural affectation. The culture goes through a generation, 2 or 3 generations, where families will contribute sons and daughters to deep practice to enrich the whole culture. It'll just work out that way. And then those 2 or 3 generations will do enough work that the whole culture is protected for 300 years. Okay? But we're due in the first world in the West for a spiritual renewal. Okay? It's interesting, isn't it, that Tucker Carlson said we gave up God after the atomic bombs. I would say it really started in the Renaissance, actually. Yeah, I would say that it really, really started in the Renaissance, in the 1700s, after the printing press got going, and these sorts of things. So, Punjabi. Yeah. Oh, Rusty Shackelford, Punjabi. Okay. I've been to Punjab, actually. It's my favorite province in India. So, you know what? I am going to tell my story. I just keep flip-flopping like a catfish at the bottom of a boat. So I had this friend, she's raised in the cults. And when I spoke to her, the book came out December 3rd, and I spoke to her in January, I think toward the end of January. And she said, Bruce, I've spoken to the cult members over here in Belgium, and they tell me you're a phony. I said, a phony? What do you mean? She said, they told me that the books are just a cover, and that you're way up in the cartels. I'm not joking. This is what I heard. Okay? Now, it sounds laughable when you first hear it, but let me finish the story. So I didn't talk to this person for 4 months. 4 months. No communication with this person. And anybody who's been through the cults and been through what these people have been through, they're really in rough shape. I don't think, this person is leaning more toward the divine now, but very difficult to get out of these and to get out of the trauma of that kind of upbringing. You guys know who I'm talking about. I interviewed her. I don't know why I'm being so secretive about this. It's Kat. And so you know her upbringing. Boiling water, freezing water, boiling water, freezing water. 3-month, that's what they do to a 3-month-old baby. Those are deep psychological scars that are very difficult to get out of. So Kat told me, she said, Bruce, they told me you're a phony and that you're way up in the cartels and the books are just a cover. And I went, okay, nice talking to you, Kat. Thanks for reaching out. And she could kind of sense my frustration and my sarcasm with her. And we didn't talk for 4 months. Then what happened was there was a raid on my mountain. And when a raid happens here, you'll see about 6 or 8 SUVs pass by very quickly. And this is a very bumpy dirt road. And then they go another 5 kilometers up the dirt road to where they think the criminal activity and the criminal masterminds are in my part of Costa Rica. They never get them. They're never there. I don't know who their intelligence is or what, but they're never there when the cops go there. It's like an episode. It's like a season of Narcos I'm living up here. It's like when they're trying. It took them so long to get Pablo Escobar. So many false leads. They would get somewhere and they say, oh, Pablo's here, and they get there and Pablo's gone, right? Because Pablo's got as many people on the police force as the chief of police. The chief of police expects his officers to work for him because they're being paid. And Pablo expects his police to work for him for the same reason. They're being paid by Pablo. So very hard to get Pablo. It's the same thing over here. It's very hard to get these guys because they got so much money. They pay the cops, and they pay the cops better than they get paid by their salary. The thing about when you get into these countries like Costa Rica, Mexico, and places like this, I mean, you're looking at a life-threatening job, like being a police officer, might pay $800 a month, 800 US dollars a month. So that's a pretty easy person to corrupt, right? So anyways, we had a big raid up here, and I heard from a reliable source that my house was originally on the raid, and that they knew I had 7 computers, and I was designated as the center of operations. And this misunderstanding was corrected, I think 24 hours before the raid was going to take place, and I was taken off the list, and my door wasn't kicked in. And I immediately thought of Kat, and it had been 4 months since I'd spoken to her. And I thought, oh my God, this global network is so interconnected they could get police intelligence from Costa Rica, because I was probably on the whiteboard. You know how when they're doing a big criminal operation, they'll have the cork board and they'll have pictures and stuff, and like in The Sopranos, Junior Soprano is the capo. Here's, I was probably on the board. And I probably went back even 4 months to when Kat heard it. And the moment I thought about Kat, she called the next day. I hadn't thought about her for 4 months, and she called. I said, Kat, you're not going to believe what happened. She said, what? I said, there's a big raid up here, and I was originally on the list to have my door kicked in. And then the police had it explained to them that it was a misunderstanding, that I was a technical writer. That's why I have 7 computers. And that I wasn't part of the cartel. But I said to Kat, somebody in Belgium, actually, when they told you I was a phony, they weren't just blowing smoke out their ass. They actually, inquiries were made, and people were contacted in Costa Rica. And at that time, based at that stage of the investigation, the corrupt Costa Rican authorities, or I don't know that they're corrupt, they could be honest. The corruption could be on the European side, with a police lieutenant or a national police captain calls from Belgium and makes the inquiry in Costa Rica, and he says, what do you know about this guy Bruce McDonald? Oh, well, we've got him in an investigation with the cartel. He lives in a cartel-infested part of the country, surrounded by narcos, and all that's true. And I get along with them fine. I borrow tractors when my abaca harvest comes in. But I'm not in that business. But the point I'm trying to make is this misconception gave me camouflage and cover. Do you understand? And this is how God protects His chosen, the people who take risks on behalf of the divine. Do you understand how powerful it is? It isn't witness protection. It isn't... See, God can do anything. Anything. So that when I told Kat, I said, she says, well, of course, Bruce, I was telling you the truth. The person I spoke to is Costa Rican and CIA living here in Belgium. This is what she told me. And the information that guy was able to get at the time was that I was in the cartels. Okay? I find that kind of stuff amazing. And I could tell you dozens of stories like this all through my life, everywhere I go. And it's like, what God does is it's like when the evil people look at you, they get blinded or misdirected. And they think they're so smart, but they're not. The only thing that really protects you in the end is God. The protection of demons will be very, very transactional. the protection of interdimensional beings with a negative agenda for the earth will be very, very transactional, meaning inconsistent and not unconditional like God. Extraterrestrial, same thing. All the power brokers in the various sectors of the cult that runs the world, same thing. You want their protection, you got to pay for it. Give us another one of your kids to do this too. It's all transactional. The only thing that protects you and loves you unconditionally is God. However you engage that God, it could be through Jesus and the Gospels. Like I said, I don't have a problem with that. A lot of the gospel Jesus people have a problem with me saying I don't necessarily need Jesus to be saved. I'm already saved. Okay? So don't tell me Jesus is the only way to do it, because I know better by my own life experience. And at the same time, I'm not disrespecting that you've chosen the Jesus path. And I spend so much time on these topics because these are the hurdles we're going to have to get over. For the people of light, whatever path they're on, but the people of light and sincerity to come together to finally vanquish this dark force on the planet. Because they've got us all infighting with each other. Christian and Muslim, Muslim and Christian, Hindu and Muslim. And we should all be on the same side. Okay? If you're a Christian and you think the Quran is demonic and Allah is evil, you're wrong. Okay? You're absolutely wrong. They're not evil. Chauvinistic, small-minded at times, robotic, heavy programming in Islamic cultures. Okay? But we have our own programming. I say to people now, when people are giving me a hard time when I defend Islam, I say, you got a 14-year-old daughter. Or let's say you got an 18-year-old daughter, because it's got to be legal here. You got an 18-year-old daughter. Would you rather she was in a burqa, or would you rather she was on OnlyFans? You tell me. I would take the burqa if those were the two choices. Okay? I would take the burqa. So don't tell me we don't have problems in our culture. We do. Stop pointing fingers. Oh, evil Islam. They get a lot of stuff right. And you know what the interesting thing about Islam is? They're very low-cost societies. You don't have big bureaucracies over there because the law is embedded in people and enforced by the mosques. You don't need a whole bunch of police. You don't need Homeland Security, FBI, ATF, Border Patrol, and the countless other agencies that exist now. You don't need all that. Look at the level of policing. It's a city like, I can't say for sure Chicago, but I know like the city of Toronto alone, and not the greater Toronto area, which is about 6 million people now, but just the actual city of Toronto, which is only about 2.5 million people. They have a 2 billion Canadian a year police budget. And for those of you who don't speak Canadian, that's about 1.5 billion US dollars to police one city of 2.5 million people. Then you've got court costs, jail costs, and all that stuff. Meanwhile, and I know you could bite my head off, but Bruce, but just hear me out. Meanwhile, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, a large city with millions of people, you could hand an 8-year-old kid a transparent plastic bag full of gold coins and tell him to hold it right out in front of him, and he could walk 5 kilometers through the center of the city and nobody would rob him. You tell me, which is the better society? I'm not taking sides. What I'm trying to show you is how they fuck with our heads. Oh my God, they put their women in burqas. Oh my God, you have to study. They don't tolerate any other religions. Oh my God. Yeah, sure, they're not like us. They're a monotheological society. They only allow their religion. Okay. Do I agree with that? Probably no. But don't ever for a moment stop looking for the good things in that society, because they're there. And our media and our mental conditioning in the West is constantly programming us to see what it wants us to see, to define our enemies. Oh, they don't allow abortions there. You know what? There's no abortion here in Costa Rica. Let me tell you something. You bring abortion up here in a casual conversation over chips and dip and a coffee or a beer on somebody's patio, 6, 7, 8 people, and you bring abortion up indicating you're in favor of it, they will look at you like you're a fucking serial killer in Costa Rica. They do not believe in killing babies under any circumstance. Okay? Now, I'm not sure I do anymore either. I used to be sort of okay with first trimester abortion. I guess it's the woman's decision. She has to decide whether she wants to be a mother or not. But now I'm not so sure whether I'm in favor of it, as all of these conversion videos come out. You know, like there was one a few months ago, that high wizard in the Illuminati, and they send these guys to abortion clinics to do abortions specifically to curse people. Okay, so you're killing a baby. It's a Moloch ritual at the end of the day. Don't let anybody tell you different. Okay, it's a Moloch ritual. Punjab Prepa. Allah says women are not equal to men. Christian gods say women equal to men, not same God. And it's not the same theology. It's the same God. There's only one God. There's only one creator, okay? You know, I never got up to Kashmir. Well, at the time I was there in 2012, all the tour guides told me it was too dangerous. There was fighting going on up there. I spent a bit of time in New Delhi. I went up to our Amritsar, and then I went to the Bias ashram, the Radhasomi ashram in Bias, Punjab, and sat in for a couple satsangs there. I went to the Golden Temple. Very impressive, by the way. The Golden Temple in India. That is an impressive place. Not just visually for its architecture and its aesthetic, but the feeling, the vibration there as well is very holy. Very, very lovely place. I often ask myself, only Canadians are going to get this, but I'll say it nonetheless. I sometimes ask myself if they'd even let Jagmeet Singh in now. He's the leader of one of the opposition parties in Canada, and he's a Sikh. But he endorses all the liberal stuff and, you know, the LGBTQ thing and everything, and all the time going around saying he's a Sikh. And I'm looking at this guy with this pink turban and going, motherfucker, they would cut your head off at the gates of the Holy Temple. Quit telling people you're a fucking Sikh. You're not. But anyways, that's the pretense of North America, right? People pretending to be things. Okay? People pretending to be things. Men and women are different in men and women are different in many ways, and most religions separate men and women. When I was dancing with the Sheikh and dancing with the Sufis, doing zikr is what the prayer is called, only the men were allowed in the circle. And then the women would sit at the back of the durga in chairs and just sort of feed off of the energy. But the direct energy coming down into the circle was only for the men in the prayer. And it was extremely powerful. I mean, the first time I went to Zikr, it finished at about 1:30 in the morning, and I could not get to sleep till 9 o'clock the next morning. It was like I had been up all night doing cocaine. I was so, not that I know, I don't want to sound like I've ever stayed up all night doing cocaine. Maybe I should choose metaphors I actually know something about. But I'm just trying to make a point here, right? It was like amphetamines. It was like crystal meth or something. Like the energy was, I just got so charged up and full of energy in that prayer. So for me, spirituality is all about the spiritual exercises. It's not about the doctrine per se. How do they pray? How do they worship? What does that worship bring into your life? What do I see in my forehead when I'm doing that worship exercise? What do I dream about when I'm doing that worship exercise? And how does that worship exercise or that communion exercise with the divine manifest in my day-to-day life? How do I see it? How do I experience it? Is it powerful? And it's been my experience that some forms of spiritual practice are much more powerful than others. Much more powerful. Okay. Hey, Kitty. Thank you. Always enjoy your shows. Anyways, I got way off track there. Let's circle all the way back, okay? So by some freak of misunderstanding, it gets out into the cults in Belgium that I'm a cartel guy. And so I don't get any black magic rituals targeting me. You see how it works? You see how divine protection works? It's not, there's nothing magical about it. It's just like, as I said, God can do anything. So God will change various circumstances or perceptions of groups of people to make sure that you're okay. And God is always with us. It's just us who ignore God. And God is just, and God is giving, and God is love. And any society without God is doomed to fall. And that's what's going on in the West now. We either reconnect with God in a manner that suits us, we don't have to take on anybody else's religion, but we either reconnect with the divine or we perish. Because this Dr. Frankenstein shit's coming to an end. We've become an abomination of a society. A fucking abomination. Excuse my language. And it's not going to be allowed much longer. Okay? I mean, we're at Sodom and Gomorrah levels of abomination now. So, it's the good and simple things in my life that I like, and my life is extremely boring. I say to people who want to come up and visit me here, I said, you got to know what you're going to do. And what do you mean? I said, there's no distractions up here, man. You can't call an Uber and go to the mall. You can't go see a matinee. You know, you can't go see a new movie at the cinema, have some popcorn and a Coke, shop at the Adidas or Nike store. There's no coffee shop to go meet your friends and talk. Okay? There's no park to go feed pigeons in. Actually, that's a bad example. You can just sit on my back porch with the bird feeders and watch the hummingbirds come in. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't know why I said that. But you really got to know what you're doing up here. Because when you're here, you're here. You should have seen the year I lived here with no internet. It was unbelievable, man. I just read books and meditated. I mean, it was like medieval. It was like the 1500s. Right? Not really, because I had electricity, right? I could turn a light on to read a book. I didn't have to light a candle. But other than that, it was pretty much medieval. I like really simple living. I don't really care about material things. Okay, truth be told, I wouldn't mind a 500cc Honda ATV to bomb around the mountain and go up to the reserve and stuff, okay? I'm not going to pretend I'm above all material possessions. I would love an ATV. But with the tariffs and everything, they're about $15,000 over here. I can't really justify the expenditure with all of my nephews and nieces and stuff, people needing stuff in my family. But I'd love one. Yeah, or a side-by-side, you know, one of those ATV-type car deals. So, but I mean, generally speaking, I don't care about status or material things or anything like that. You want to know who I am? Read one of my books. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you by the label on my clothing. I'm going to tell you who I am by writing it down, and then you'll know. Honestly, you know, when you look at the world, and if you want to know if you're a good person, here's a little test. Ask yourself, if everyone in the world behaved the same as you, would it be a better or a worse world? And in my instance, it would be a much better world. Infinitely better world. So I know I'm a good person. Okay, so if you're out there cheating and scamming people and doing all kinds of heinous shit that you haven't been caught for, and you ask yourself the question, would the world be a better or worse place if everybody behaved the way I do? The answer is clearly it would be a worse place. One of the reasons that I think Western society is collapsing now is the criminality has gotten completely out of hand. You see, for criminal culture is what thrives. It's like a parasite that thrives on a healthy host. You go back to the 50s when it was just like the Italian mafia and stuff like that. They ran gambling, they ran whores. If opulence was coming into the middle class, people had a little extra money, they liked to gamble, they liked whores. And the mafia could live off that and do pretty well off that. Now, it's like they're inventing markets, but the markets are so crippling now. It's like the Chinese with their fentanyl. That's not very forward thinking. And in fact, it isn't forward thinking. They're not looking to get rich selling fentanyl. They're looking to kill North Americans. That's more of a Chinese intelligence operation than it is a triad operation. It's being facilitated through the triads, but that goes directly to Beijing. That's an act of warfare. Interesting thing about Chinese culture is the left and the right hand work together, just like Jewish culture. Okay, that means the criminal world and the legal ruling world know each other and work together. They don't meet in public and take photos together, but when you live in Asia, you figure it out in about 6 months if you have half a brain. It's not too hard to figure out. Hey, Paulie, how you doing? Yeah, well, there's my 50 minutes for tonight. I don't know, if anyone wants to call in, go ahead, 864-810-1039. I'll stay on for another 5 minutes. But I just wanted to come on tonight and do a show. And well, I like to go on every night, It's like my version of going to the coffee shop for a conversation, which I used to love to do in Canada. Right, I had a coffee shop right by my house. So, God is everything, folks. You got to put your whole heart and as much of yourself as possible into the pursuit and maintenance of a relationship with God. Whatever God it is. Okay? It's really all the same God. I mean, yeah, you're going to find differences in scriptures and stuff. That's all true, But really, if your heart is pure, we're all seeking the same God. By the way, to the Punjabi Prepa, I've read the Japji, I've read Guru Nanak, I've read most of the holy texts of the Sikh religion too. I'm a total religious literature geek, and I've been this way since I was 17, 18 years old. I read that stuff the way other people read Stephen King novels. I find it fascinating. The Sikhs are a fascinating religion and a fascinating people. Their origin and their purpose and what they became spiritually. And their teachers, beginning with Guru Nanak and going on through the 10 teachers, and what they left. It was a treasure trove of spiritual riches. I'm not quite sure that the Sikhs are on path now. They seem to be getting a little dogmatic like the Muslims, but we're due for another great teacher soon. So I think a lot of stuff is going to get cleared up. We're due for another great teacher. All right, so nobody's calling in. I'm going to call it a night, and I'm Bruce McDonald, and this